Could this be the moment it went wrong for the coalition in the seat of Newcastle?
I would rather have that dam developed than build 2 or 3 desalination plants in this neck of the woods, that's for sure. So the Liberal National Party perspective will be, we will hold on to the land, we may lease it back to the locals, but we hold on to it, then we just look to the future and see when it's going to be needed.
An apparent faux pas, which could be Tim Owen's loss and sitting member Jodie McKay's gain.
What I just heard is Tim supporting Telegra Dam, which actually flies in the face of what his leader has said.
Mr Owen's leader, Barry O'Farrell, was emphatic in his stance on the dam last year.
We're committed to scrapping the Telegra Dam. This was never about securing water supplies for the Hunter. It was a diversion in an election campaign when Labor was in the midst of a pedophile MP scandal.
A sentiment echoed by his deputy today.
The Telegra Dam is stone cold, motherless, dead.
This afternoon, Mr Owen toed the party line.
Last night, when I spoke, my intention was to give a personal perspective about the advantages of a dam versus a $1 billion desalination plant in the context of water security. If I was misinterpreted, that is not my intention. Labor is pretty desperate, and all they've really got to throw is mud. Frankly, they're a policy-free zone.
The transcript, though, doesn't look very good in terms of what was said and in what context it was said.
That's it. Thanks, Kate. I'd just like to say that. Thank you.
That's all right, Tim.
Thank you very much.
With 16 days until the vote, the spectre of Telegra has spiced up the race for this seat, as has sitting member Jodie McKay drawing number 1 on the ballot paper.
It certainly helps to be on the top, but I do think people think about how they vote.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News. Just last month, the NRMA listed it among the state's worst roads.
It's a goat track, putting it nicely. It has claimed many lives over the last few years.
So the coalition hopes committing to fix Nelson Bay Road is a vote winner.
There's few roads more important in the state than Nelson Bay Road. That's why we're committing $40 million to the dual carriageway between Bob's Farm and Anna Bay.
$5 million has also been allocated to resurface nearby Lemon Tree Passage Road.
It depends on a bit of council funding, which they're well aware of, but I'd like to see them get on with it straight away.
Also today, the coalition committed $15 million towards the construction of the Pennant Street Bridge, which will span from Cardiff's industrial estate to Glendale Drive. The coalition says the bridge will get the ball rolling on the Glendale Transport Interchange, but wouldn't commit to any further funding for that much talked about project.
This $15 million starts the project. We'll then be negotiating with other stakeholders to make sure that everybody puts in their fair share.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News. This fence at Glendale was tagged last night, just as the unsightly graffiti was being removed.
One of the key actions in removing graffiti or preventing graffiti is to get to it as quickly as you can. So this is a really good response.
But it would still be there if it wasn't for an $84,000 state government grant, which has enabled the expansion of a graffiti program to include private property.
In these fences that face busy roads or public areas that have had this unsightly graffiti on it for a long time, and you can see that the impact is terrific.
For us, it's an additional service provision. We can go out there now and do more because we do have the numbers with the young people going through the court system.
As part of the extended program, 5 graffiti hotspots have been identified, including Charlestown, Warners Bay, Cardiff, Windale and Edgeworth.
They were identified by New South Wales Police and they're looking at the numbers of reported graffiti around the city.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
It wasn't the swell organisers or surfers were hoping for. Wallaby Point's Ryan Hunt did his best to get as much out of the mediocre waves as he could. But as the heat progressed, the grommet found it difficult to maintain the pace. He finished third behind Josh Hay and Shane Campbell. Eliminated from the event, a deflated Hunt dragged himself back to shore.
It's pretty hard, pretty small conditions. But yeah, I just didn't get the waves.
But he remains positive.
Yeah, it would have been nice to do well, but can't win every time.
Following him in the water, Josh Radford from the Central Coast. It took him a while to get started, and he had his work cut out for him early on, with Luke Streeter setting the standard. Radford was in third place with just minutes to spare, but he did enough with this ride to put him into second spot and into the third round.
So close. Me and Jake versed each other a couple times and he's beat me a couple times, so finally got him back on one.
The action continues tomorrow. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Oh, it's huge. You ask any bowler and one of their main aims in their bowling career is to represent their side in the National Sides Championship.
Look, we've outlaid over 400,000 in a fleet of 50 motorised golf cars. They're here on site and running. Machinery, the course, well over $1 million will be spent upgrading the facilities.
Police were called to this property at Threckeld Street at Bolton Point at around 1:30 this afternoon. Here they found a man suffering multiple injuries. It's believed he was attacked with a spear gun. Police established a crime scene and forensic crews spent the afternoon at the house. Now the man was taken to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital in a serious condition where he's currently undergoing treatment. It's not known whether anyone has been arrested over the incident.
It's a dream that has the potential to transform this waterside land at Wickham. The centrepiece, a world-class convention centre, partially jutting out onto the harbour. Jodie McKay's plans include a 5-star hotel, a new ferry terminal, a series of low-density developments and more parkland, as well as the removal of the train line east of Wickham.
There still needs to be some work done in terms of the business case and also in terms of determining what sort of feasibility in terms of the amount of people that we would want to cater for at a convention centre.
But Lord Mayor and independent candidate for Newcastle, John Tate, claims they're old plans.
All of these things might be all right to talk about, but there's no means for the current member to make these things happen.
Then there's Broadmeadow, where Ms McKay envisages a hotel next to the stadium and moving basketball facilities to the existing entertainment centre. The member for Newcastle claims it could be funded by selling off several parcels of land, including Broadmeadow Basketball Stadium. But of course, both plans hinge on the result of the coming election. Another promise creating noise today, the modernisation of the notorious Adamstown rail crossing. In the half an hour we were filming there, 5 trains passed through. Frustrating drivers.
How long do you on average wait here?
25 minutes.
3 independent candidates have joined forces to draw attention to the issue.
This is the exact boundary between the 3 electorates, so we really need the 3 members to work together, and that hasn't been happening at all.
While the 3 candidates don't have a concrete solution, they say there are a range of options.
One way is to look at an underpass, not necessarily in the same bit of road. There are other ways, like even diverting the coal and goods trains.
Like a pair of prize fighters, 2 of the heavyweights of Hunter politics went head-to-head and they weren't pulling any punches. Mike Gallagher took aim at Labor's promised law precinct.
This isn't a gift. This isn't something of some generous benefactor down in Sydney. The fact is the current courts have had it. They have gone, riddled with white ants and God knows what else. They had to replace it.
Then it was Jodie McKay's turn to draw blood over the future of the Hunter Development Corporation.
What we are looking at is how we can simplify business in this area and how we can get planning moving in this area.
I think we all know what that meant.
In the end, it was up to the 2 MPs to battle for votes.
That we actually had you engaged over the last 6 weeks of this election campaign and the issues here. Not once have you weighed into this. Not once have you come up here to actually argue with me or debate me, apart from today in front of an audience where you get to be all fancy and whatever else you think you are.
A bit like a product at the back of the fridge. You've been buying the same brand, ladies and gentlemen, the use-by date's off. You've got to throw it out.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
It was meant to be a bit of fun with friends, but for the 19-year-old local woman, her night took a turn for the worse just minutes from home. The victim and her 4 friends were set upon by 3 females at 2 a.m. on Sunday, February 20, shortly after they arrived by train at the Cardiff station. 2 girls were assaulted in the incident and as a result have vowed to never use the rail network at night again.
I was hitting my eye first, my right eye, and then she grabbed my hair and got me on the ground. She was pulled off me then and then came back at me and pulled my hair again and got me on the ground and then bit me.
The attack also has the young woman, who doesn't want to be named, scared to venture into unfamiliar areas alone. Crime statistics show that every 3 hours a crime is committed across Newcastle's 8 train stations. Last year alone, more than 3,000 were committed between Newcastle and Cardiff. Liberal candidate for Charlestown, Andrew Cornwell, says the attack only highlights how dangerous it can be to use local public transport.
The government has failed to provide a safe, comfortable and reliable local transport system, and if it's not safe, people won't use it.
But Charlestown MP Matthew Morris says the final stage of an access upgrade will start at the end of this month and include the installation of extra security cameras. Police are yet to lay any charges. Christy Reading, NBN News.
We started this a few years ago raising $5,000 and now we're going to hit over $40,000 for leukaemia.
It's a small price to pay for a bit of vanity and it's a great cause.
Making it through the HSC is an achievement in anyone's books. Add to that the pressure of bringing up a child and the task becomes a whole lot harder. Just ask Tara Jeffrey, who fell pregnant with her son Sean at 16.
I really wanted to do year 11 and 12. It was a big priority of mine. I always thought I would go to university and be one of those people. Surprises happen along the way and I'm just so thankful that I ended up coming here and could further my education with love and support.
The DALE program, standing for Dynamic Alternative Learning Environment, began in 2000 and was the first school to provide on-site childcare for young mums. Since then, it's seen enrolments bloom from a humble 10 to today's class of 52. Today, past students and their offspring headed back to school to celebrate a decade of education. But it's motherly love that fuels these students' ambitions, a desire to give their children the best lives possible.
I don't think I would have had as much direction if I didn't come here and meet the people that actually helped out.
I owe absolutely everything to them, from my education all the way down to my son's wheelchair. They've organised a lot for me. They've been fantastic.
Christy Reading, NBN News.
Edgeworth and Western have endured a fierce rivalry in recent years. Fortunately, it's never been bitter enough to warrant the rescue chopper. This Sunday, though, they'll raise money for the service while vying for the season's first piece of silverware. For the Bears, the memory of that grand final loss still burns.
But on a whole, the season was fairly successful for us, but it would have been nice to go that one step on grand final day, so, you know, a bit more incentive for this year, hopefully.
Not content with its title, Edgeworth has acquired former NSL player Scott Thomas and the Magic's Ben Martin.
Our pre-season form's been really good. We seem to have improved every week from the first trial. But yeah, there's always been that high expectation at Edgeworth to do well.
Western has lost 2008 Player of the Year Reece Tippett, but believe Mick Ryan and Jamie Subat can easily carry the load.
This year, every time we turn up to play, everyone's going to be at their best and know that they're going to have to play well. So we need to try and lift, another level from last year.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Three days after being picked to make his first grade debut, Beau Henry was in good spirits at training this morning. The man he'll partner in the halves is confident Henry is ready.
Since he come back doing a bit of contact and that, he's shown us plenty of skill, and he's shown us he's ready for first grade. So I wasn't surprised. He's got plenty of talent. So I'll be out there helping him out there, and hopefully he has a good game.
The Knights' first home game won't come until round 4, with 6 of their first 8 games to be played on the road. The coach says away form has been the focus throughout the pre-season, specifically limiting penalties and getting mentally prepared.
Some away games you can get there and you can sort of be beaten before you play because no one's sort of bringing the energy there and everyone's pretty flat before the game. So we're looking to really freshen up before the game and bring plenty of energy.
There was plenty of positive energy last night as the Knights' old boys gave Nathan Tinkler their full support in his push to privatise the club. Starting tonight, 4 new commercials will be aired, featuring former Newcastle players, coaches and administrators who have all put their voice behind the proposal.
I helped build the Knights. Now it's time it grew to a new level. Our club has a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
I choose to live in this town. Now you have a choice about your club's future.
A choice of building a winning football club and a choice to celebrate a game. Members, it's our choice.
Vote yes for success.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Police arrived at this Bolton Point house at around 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, responding to reports a 38-year-old man had been attacked.
It's alleged that a male armed himself with a spear gun and fired the spear gun into the thigh of the other male. It actually penetrated both thighs, causing the man's legs to be pinned together.
Police say the victim was then struck numerous times with the spear gun, the impact breaking his arm. Following the attack, there were reports a man had fled the scene. At around 9:30 last night, police stopped and arrested a 24-year-old male driver near Glen Innes in the state's northwest. He was charged with numerous offences, including shooting with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm, and faced Armidale Local Court today. Meanwhile, a crime scene was established at the Lake Macquarie house, where police say they made another discovery.
Attending police searched the house and located a number of cannabis plants in a hydroponic setup.
The 38-year-old victim has undergone surgery in Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital, where he remains in a stable condition. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News. Bike riders, walkers, even the odd hitchhiker. There was no difficulty in finding someone to take advantage of the newest stretch of the Fernley track.
Now it's here, it's absolutely magic.
I think it's brilliant. I'm looking forward to my grandchildren in Adamstown being able to meet me halfway so we can ride backwards and forwards.
Local, state and federal politicians marked the end of a project which began 10 years ago.
The two councils came together in the early 1990s and took the option up to acquire the line, and I'm so pleased that there were people there who had some vision as to what could be delivered.
Now complete, the track stretches 15.9 kilometres all the way from Adamstown to Belmont. It could eventually link up with a statewide network of pathways.
So the idea is to give people the opportunity to have access to beaches, to the fantastic scenery and all the facilities of the coast up and down the whole of the state.
We'll be able to easily cut across here at Belmont, pick up the Pacific Highway route, and that takes us all the way through to Murray's Beach.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News. Running as an independent candidate for the upper house in the state election, Ms Hanson called into the Reg Lindsay rodeo but claimed she wasn't on the campaign trail.
This is what I do. If people want to talk to me, come up and talk about an issue, that's up to them.
Still, she proved a magnet for some voters. Unlike the major parties who have slammed Ms Hanson's return to politics.
They see me as a threat to their positions, to their power. They don't want to see someone like Pauline Hanson on the floor of Parliament calling for accountability, being honest with the public and telling them exactly what's happening.
Swansea Belmont is consistently one of the Hunters' top surf clubs, and thanks to a new training schedule, its top athletes believe they're fitter than ever.
We've had a good lead up this season with the cross training now that we've been doing as well, and all the other training has just been really good. I think the club will go great.
Emily Chaffee and clubmate Daniel Booth were part of a New South Wales development squad which travelled to New Zealand earlier this month. The experience has helped both grow in confidence, and the timing couldn't be better, with the state titles being held next weekend at Coogin and the Aussies 2 weeks later on the Gold Coast.
We'll try and peak for state and then have a bit of a rest and then get back into training and then try and peak as much as we can for Aussies because that's the big one.
Daniel is a strong chance in the ski, but his eyes are on another prize.
It's kind of like the pet event in Solar Saving, like you want to win the Ironman.
The 17-year-old won several Ironmans as a junior, but is looking for a change of fortune in the Opens. 15-year-old Alex Marshall is also making the step up after being selected in the Open state team. He knows the next month is all about experience.
Just to see where I'm at and where everyone else is at and what I have to do next season to try and get in those top ranks.
These residents are on the election warpath. Leading the campaign against the government, a Labor candidate.
I will fight whoever it takes to get a public high school in Medowie.
It was her party who bought land for a school in 1983, and everyone here has been waiting since then for something to happen.
My kids are currently in primary school and really want to stay in the area. I don't want to send them to Newcastle or Raymond Terrace.
At the moment, nearly 800 kids are bussed out of town.
It's not like an average bus, it's really full.
I have a Year 10 son who's travelled into Newcastle to high school for 4 years, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and gets home after 5.
There are also signs of protest in Beresfield.
You've only got to look around the town to see there's a major problem as far as graffiti and vandalism.
But after 5 years of waiting for action, the residents today seem to like what they heard.
We will give an additional 9 police, specifically targeting Beresfield Police Station.
It'll mean the station could again be manned.
Any promise is good for us, coming from any party.
They have always maintained there's not a need for police here. Now we're led to believe that some magical police numbers are going to arrive.
This Stockton resident is also asking questions. He's worried about dirty political polling concerning a phone call he received.
John Tate was described as the independent Labor Lord Mayor of Newcastle.
I think it's a means and a way of putting doubt in the voters' minds to attach me to the failed Labor brand. I don't think it's legal, and we'll be taking it up with the Electoral Commission.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Surfing his home break, Jake Sylvester made a frantic start to the Pro Junior final, picking up several low-scoring rides. In contrast, Thomas Woods waited patiently and it paid off, an 8.5 putting him in the driver's seat. Sylvester was trying every trick in the book, but when Woods added a 5.5, hopes of a local winner were sinking. Needing a 7.25 to regain the lead, Jake literally lifted one last time. Scraping home by just 0.05, the 17-year-old was a popular champion.
I'm over the moon right now. Just all the support down here on the beach for me from all the local people, and I've got all my family down here and friends. It's awesome. I'm so happy.
Sylvester will now switch his focus to the Open men's event.
Yeah, good confidence boost into going into the QS, and hopefully I can take a couple of big names down. It'll be awesome.
In the girls' final, Victoria's Nikki Van Dyke left it late, but a 9-point ride in the dying stages helped her overcome Western Australia's Felicity Parmentier.
Jodie McKay was prepared to go along for the ride, and while some joined the member for Newcastle, it seemed others weren't so willing. Not even her idea for free public transport in the city was enough to secure preferences from those she perhaps needs.
No, we've pretty much universally decided not to preference Labor.
But at their Hunter launch, the Greens were hardly describing the Liberal Party as man's best friend.
Well, everyone's predicting a coalition landslide in the lower house, and we're worried that in fact they'll also have control of the upper house.
Especially now key independents are standing by their side. In nearly all seats, they'll preference each other.
My major reason for standing is to get rid of this current state government. I think it is a bad government.
Look, our preferences reflect the need for fresh faces in the area. The same tired old Labor members that have failed us for 16 years need to go.
But at the moment, they're standing firm, preparing to fight for votes even on the first day of pre-polling.
They usually get harder, in fact, but, it's going to be a tough election. I've always said that, and I'm just doing what I can.
The candidates have just under 2 weeks before we head to the ballot box, and for some, that couldn't come soon enough. Vandals are making life tough for those in the state seat of Swansea.
Defacing campaign material is illegal. The police are already aware that this behaviour is going on, and they have said that they will prosecute those if caught in the act.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
All Lake Macquarie detectives are saying, where are they and why aren't we getting our share?
These are the structures in question, and according to some locals, it's no light issue for New Lambton. Those living next to Novocastrian Park have described it as a state of constant moonlight. As floodlights fill their homes, one has even sold up. Paul Walsh has been against the structures from the start, claiming they're inappropriate and unsafe.
And I believe it is outrageous of Newcastle City Council officers who were unelected to decide off their own bat to place these towers within falling distance of people's homes with absolutely no vote of council taking place.
He's calling for an independent investigation by the Department of Local Government or the State Ombudsman, not one funded by Newcastle Council. But according to the council, it's confident of the independence of its recent review of the installation of lighting, and added the review concludes that council was in accordance with the appropriate procedures. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. Move over Sideshow Alley. The exhibition hall could be the crowd pleaser this weekend. It's filled with hundreds of artworks, sculptures and photographs by local and national artists. Amazingly, the photography section of the Newcastle show has been running since 1938, and this year it includes more than 500 inspiring images. Many entries depict nature, devoted to landscapes and wildlife, plus there are portraits, including this one titled Caress, which won Best Colour Print. The Art Prize is also highly competitive, with 148 entries this year, and organisers say the standard is again exceptional.
It's always so exciting on the day that we take the entries, and it's a bit of a rush. It's a quick look and you think, oh wow, 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 and that goes on for 2 hours.
But just who wowed the judges with their artwork will be announced later tonight. The Newcastle show opens 9 a.m. Friday, and for those weighing up whether to go, here are a few pearls of wisdom from a show veteran.
It's no use saying next week I wish I had been to the show and seen it for myself.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Injury concerns could have put a dampener on yesterday's win, but the Knights were in a buoyant mood at recovery. After sweating it out in Penrith, a surfing lesson was a fitting reward, although some were looking for more instruction than others. Junior Sau needed a friendly push. Against the Panthers, he was a one-man wrecking crew. Junior says he has his Kiwi teammates to thank.
The boys there said, you've got to back yourself more, and I took that on board, and finally show yesterday.
Sau's preference is to stay with the Knights, despite rumours 7 clubs are chasing his signature.
That's got nothing to do with me. That's what my manager's there for, and for me, I just got to keep performing well for Newcastle.
Isaac de Gois drew high praise for a tough 70 minutes. He finished with heat stroke and an injured thumb, which could keep him out for a month. Kurt Gidley has a 50-50 chance of facing the Cowboys, with his lower back injury to be monitored this week. Neville Costigan's broken arm will need 3 months to heal.
Cameron Serrato looks an obvious straight swap for Neville Costigan. Look, if Kurt doesn't play, I would suggest Shannon McDonald would be the favourite for that particular position at the moment, but obviously we've got to weigh up Adam McDougall and where he's at as well.
Bo Henry was sporting the biggest smile in the NRL before kick-off, but was he simply hiding nerves?
Genuine excitement. It was a long time coming. I've been working hard for that dream pretty much, and as soon as it came, I was just so happy to be out in the field.
Following a tentative opening, Henry and Jared Mullen orchestrated the win and combined for a try.
He just took control, which is he's been wanting to do that for a while, and he did a great job out there for us. He led us around the park, and I just jumped on the back of it.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
No excuses. We had some issues, but no issue other than just the rider. Rider needs to step it up.
They're on the other side of the world, thousands of kilometres from the devastation back home. These 25 Japanese students are taking part in classes at Hunter Christian School as part of a 50-strong contingent visiting the Hunter on a 12-day exchange. The school's aiming to maintain normality as best it can.
The students themselves are understandably distressed and concerned. We've been very careful in making sure they don't see much of the vision that's on the web or in the newspapers.
It can't be easy for the teenagers who are from tsunami-ravaged Kesanuma. Phone lines there are down and correspondence is proving incredibly difficult.
At best it's SMS. Occasionally we've been able to get on the web. There's a voluntary web page that you can register that you're alive and well.
More than half still haven't been able to contact family, creating an anxious wait.
We have some really relieved students, but unfortunately with each good news story of students that are relieved, there are some students who are understandably more distressed because they don't know.
While they're in safe hands being billeted in Newcastle, back home Kesanuma is a scene of desolation. It's in the Miyagi prefecture in northern Honshu. The fishing town has reported thousands of people missing, while officials have confirmed hundreds there have died. When the students return to Japan later this week, sadly they're unlikely to recognise their hometown. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's becoming a familiar sight, the Premier rolling up to secure votes in Labor heartland. For the second time in less than a week, she targeted the Hunter and walked away with at least one new fan, a loyal one at that. The main reason for the visit to the picturesque Hunter Valley was to announce a new plan to deal with coal mining and coal seam gas exploration, which includes a ban on mining licences in waterways adjoining national parks.
We will use strategic zones in order to be clear with the community where mining will be permitted and where it will not.
And to forbid the use of controversial chemicals involved in coal seam gas operations.
We have no evidence that they're used in fracking in New South Wales, but we are now banning their use.
The Premier's bus then rolled into Jodie McKay's seat of Newcastle to announce a $102 million package to fund science lab upgrades statewide. And in her perfectly colour-coded outfit, the Premier had a captive audience.
What this will mean is that every school, every high school in New South Wales will have had their science labs either substantially renovated or brand new.
She also seized upon the coalition directing preferences to several Hunter independents.
And you know, those sorts of deals, they come with strings. They come with strings attached.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
A full complement of Hunter Liberal candidates joined the Shadow Health Minister as she fleshed out the weekend's policy announcement. Of the extra 2,500 nurses and 1,390 beds being promised statewide, the Hunter New England region will receive 25 and 50 respectively.
We've calculated the numbers of beds needed in the Hunter based on the current bed occupancy rate and the current number of beds.
It's a fantastic start should we gain government.
Considering the region provides care for almost 1 million people, the Nurses Association is questioning the numbers, but it has welcomed the Coalition's commitment to bring back flexible rostering.
We can do that maintaining the right skill mix and keeping nurses in our wards, because I'm hearing that they're so disillusioned that a lot of them have quit. We can't afford that.
The Premier was today quick to dismiss the opposition's plan, but wouldn't say how many nurses or beds a Labor government would deliver for the Hunter.
Mr O'Farrell refuses to endorse the COAG health reform. He cannot, therefore, claim to be delivering those beds if he is elected, because you only get those beds and you only get that money if you sign up to the reform.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
It's the age-old question, what lies beneath? Now scientists are better able to answer it thanks to this, the GeoSwath.
The GeoSwath is a side-scan sonar. It works like an echo sounder on your regular fishing vessel and gives you information below the boat.
That information comes back like this, offering a unique view of the ocean floor.
The level of detail that we're gathering is unsurpassed. It hasn't been collected before.
The GeoSwath delivers information on the depth and the hardness of the sea floor. It can scan 150 metres on either side of the vessel and 200 metres underwater. For the next few months, the GeoSWAT on board the RV Bombora will undertake seabed mapping in the Port Stephens Great Lakes Marine Park, 5 years after it first began preliminary research work in the area.
We're looking to cover about another 40 to 50 square kilometres, and we're focusing on the deeper habitats this time, so the deep reef habitats located out about 3 nautical miles.
The information gathered will be used to develop future zoning areas for the marine park. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
People coming to the refuges hasn't slowed down, it hasn't stopped, it increases.
1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence in their lifetime, and we know that 42% of homicides are the result of domestic and family violence.
Kurt Gidley is widely acknowledged as the Knights' fittest player, but the fullback admits he's struggling with an injury to his lower back.
He needs to improve dramatically before he can play on the weekend, but sometimes these sort of back things can improve quickly. So we'll reassess him again on Thursday and make a decision then.
Isaac de Gois is out with a broken thumb, so Matt Hilder is likely to play the majority of the game at hooker. Former Cessnock goanna Chris Adams would have been considered, but his horrible run of luck continued over the weekend as he re-injured the arm he broke last year.
It is a sort of a double whammy for Chris because he's worked really hard in the off-season and deserves an opportunity if it come along.
Cameron Ciraldo knows a thing or two about serious injuries. The big forward has struggled to establish a permanent place in the Knights' top 17 since arriving from the Sharks in 2008.
I've had a few stumbling blocks along the way. Every time I felt ready and confident, something's happened. But hopefully people say good things come to those who wait.
Rick Stone says Ciraldo was unlucky not to be named in round 1, following impressive performances in the trials.
Probably going into this year a bit more confident than last year. Got through every training session this year opposed to last year. I had to miss a bit with my foot and that, and felt good in the trials, and I feel like I'm ready to take the chance now, and hopefully we have another win like the boys did on the weekend. Hopefully I'll be part of that.
The swell improved, but conditions remain tricky for the opening of the men's event at Surfest. Lake Munmora's Jack Scholar dominated the day's first heat. In the round of 96, he only managed 5 scoring waves, but did enough to qualify for the round of 80. Fellow Lake Munmora rider Michael Spencer outclassed his rivals in the afternoon. An opening 7-point ride helped him cruise into Wednesday's heats. In contrast, Catherine Hill Bay's Sam Lendrum struggled to find a high score. Time and again, Lendrum came up short, but was still sitting in second until Brent Savage from the far north coast knocked him out in the dying seconds. In the final men's heat of the day, Merriweather's Jesse Adam used his local knowledge to good effect, setting up a clash with fellow local Craig Anderson. Ryan Callanan will join the Hunter contingent in the men's round of 80.
There was a brave sign from Lisa Mondi as she was wheeled into John Hunter Hospital. The 24-year-old was wakeboarding with friends near Jimmy's Beach just before 1 p.m. when she was mauled by a shark.
She did get a very short glimpse of the creature, and she said it looked like a reasonable sized shark.
Witnesses described a horrific scene as Ms Mondi was loaded into a waiting ambulance.
It was an awful scream, and we hope that the girl's fine. Hope she's okay. Just scary stuff.
During the attack, the Nelson Bay woman suffered multiple injuries.
It looks like she's got a large bite wound to the upper part of her left arm and another reasonable sized bite wound to the right side of her neck.
It's the second time in just 3 years that someone's been attacked in waters off Jimmy's Beach. In early 2008, a 31-year-old man was surfing there when he was bitten by a 2.2 metre long great white shark. Late this afternoon, New South Wales maritime officers cleared nearby beaches. Local fishermen say the area is renowned for sharks.
Every now and again when I come off the rocks here down at the bay, they're always around and they always come after the life baits.
Friends are tonight by the cruise boat workers' side, saying the attack won't keep Miss Mondi away from the water.
She's a great girl and I'm sure she'll pull together with it and won't stop her. She'll be straight back on the horse, so to speak.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
What began as a way to immortalise Coon Island soon turned into a trip down memory lane, especially for Lenore Roach. The island is named after her father, Herbert Heaney.
He was first one to live on the island, and he was the first one to have a house here.
And everyone associated with the island has their own special memories.
We're always in the water and fishing and prawning. Prawning at night, we'd go fishing either in the shallows.
We used to go swimming down there at the point, and we used to swim near the little bridge over there and jump in the water off a tree.
Cottages lined the waterfront, but it was by no means easy living.
Fuel stove, no showers, and you'd have one bath a week at night in a big old iron tub.
This area here is where the cottages used to be. There were around 60 of them and were built in the 1920s. Residents moved out around 40 years later in the 1960s, with the last one leaving Coon Island in 1994. And as for the future of the island...
Well, I hope they do preserve it.
I hope they look after it, but I hope it doesn't get too commercialised.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
She could be Newcastle's golden girl.
as Philippa Anderson moved through to the round of 24, the other local contenders bombed out.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult out there getting back into it. Started off a bit slow, gradually got a few at the end, but I think by then it was a bit late.
The conditions were almost refreshing early on, and world number 2 Sally Fitzgibbons took full advantage. Her opening ride an 8.17, but it seemed everyone came to watch perhaps the country's next star. After a second at last week's Roxy Pro on the Gold Coast, Lennox Head's 16-year-old Tyler Wright again put the big names on notice. Her heat score only bettered by American Sage Eriksson. Even the likes of former world champion Peru's Sofia Milanovic stood up to take notice.
Nowadays, you just kind of have to get going pretty fast because all the girls are surfing so good and the level is so high.
The men's competition gets serious tomorrow, but the round of 64 will be without hometown hero Luke Egan for another year. Delays proved costly as conditions deteriorated and the disappointment of an early exit showed. Nat Wallace, NBN News.